All right. Well, welcome everybody to a very special episode. I'm excited to kick this off, man. It's been a couple text messages, at least in the works, but crossover episode between Getting Past the Premium and the Be Extraordinary podcast with the one and only Brett Young. How we doing, man?
I'm good. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, this has been something we've been talking about doing for a while, and I'm excited to kick it off.
Yeah, thanks for putting it on the calendar and making it happen. This has been fun.
Yeah, so we want to focus and hopefully this is something we do right on a somewhat consistent basis. We don't know. Hopefully, if we get good feedback, we'll do them more frequently, right? But really centering around this concept of building a business, not building a book or building an agency, right? And it takes a different mindset when you're thinking about how do I build my business versus just build my book to a certain degree, right? And it all comes down to what's your goals and how do you want to, what do you want to do with your business? But that's really where we want to center this conversation around over the course of time, because I think there's a lot of different meanings to that and things you got to build in your agency to become a business, right? So first off, Brett, you articulate this really well. So like, what does that mean to you when you say, we should be building businesses, not agencies or not books of business?
To me, what it means is that we just get lost in the insurance process, and we think that we get so inundated with trying to write insurance that we forget that this is a business and it works just like almost every other business. And we complicated it by thinking that we're special because we have a license and we sell insurance because we know certain things, and we get so technical, and the fundamentals of building a business are the same. And if we can learn more about what those fundamentals are in a broader sense of all business, then in essence we're going to have a lot more success in our craft, in our industry. Because from my perspective, what we've seen is that agents and agency owners, they hit this plateau. And the reason they hit this plateau is because, they just didn't build it with the end in mind. They built it as an agent, as a producer, and they didn't build it in something that could be scaled. Because the foundational principles of what that looks like were not the focus. It was more, how do I get good at writing insurance? And I just, that's definitely level one, but level two, level three, level four, level five, and beyond really have almost nothing to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think so many folks, because I've always thought of this, like, I, why do you think people are starting as an agent and not thinking further than just working on their book, if that makes sense? They're not really thinking about building that business.
I think people work their agents. You got to learn to be an agent first.
Mm-hmm.
So, the idea of like someone comes into the business, they're like, man, they're just trying to make that work. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to become a great sales professional. I'm trying to become a great advisor. I'm trying to become a great insurance agent. And, so I think it's just, you get caught in the loop. Like today I woke up, had a great, workout, did a morning, but now I'm inundated with all the shit that comes for the day. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not, necessarily planning what this looks like. So I think being intentional about how you want to end, where you want to be, and giving yourself space to do that is really important, because you need you most of the time, not everybody. I know some people that have been very successful building large agencies. They were never agents. And there's a clue for you. But most people are going to start off as agents, and they're going to get good at that craft. They're going to learn the business. That's how I did it, and that's how my partners did it. And then once you have mastered that, or you're in mastery. You're never mastering anything, but you're in the mastery phase. Then at least you know that that's to get you to the next phase, if that's what you choose to desire to do. But knowing that the reason that you're trying to get to a mastery level in that craft is to get to the next phase. So beginning with the end in mind, I think, is the biggest important part. Like, it's like, I got to get good at this so I can teach it. And I got to get good at this so I can teach it so that I can teach them to teach it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just have a different, if you approach it from that perspective, you just have a different viewpoint, you have a different perspective on why you're getting good at something, relative than just, oh, I want to write a lot of business. And I think we all start that way, but knowing where you want to end is the big caveat to that, because we get stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a good point. for everybody is begin with your end in mind, not necessarily, it doesn't, the same end doesn't apply to everybody, right? And maybe you just want to build a book that sustains a lifestyle and
Yep.
you're good with that. That's totally fine. That's not what we're necessarily discussing here, right? We're
Right.
saying, you want to take it beyond that, start hiring people, start to create a business, and start with that end. So, but it's important for you to decide what that is, right?
Yeah, I think like one of the best examples I could give is there's a lot of different ways to describe this, but even the people that we're mentoring and grooming inside of our organization right now, the leaders, if you will, inside the organization, there is this thought process that I don't need to do these certain things until I have somebody that I'm leading. Until I have a couple people that I'm leading, then I'll start doing these things. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Before you were ever in charge with influencing and leading people, you should be doing the thing that would in turn attract those people to want to follow you. And the person that doesn't do those things in the beginning when they have nobody following them is obviously not beginning with the end in mind. They're not beginning with the idea that I need to become this person. I need to become attractive. I need to become magnetic. I need to be the person that does the thing. Like, so it happens over and over again. It's like, why am I doing this? This doesn't make sense. Of course, it never makes sense until it makes sense. But then when it makes sense, it's like, well, thank God I've been doing that forever. Like something as simple as this, like even the concept of like physical exertion and working out, like becoming a person that you want to lead people, I believe is very important in regards to just physical fitness. I just believe that because it creates a discipline, it creates an attractiveness, it creates a morning routine, it creates a level of proficiency, and so, but it's like, well, I'll do all these things when somebody's looking at me to be the model. It's like, well, no, you got it out of order. Like you gotta do that before you've earned that right. And that's just they're linked, whether someone wants to believe it or not. Like it's a business principle because it's a leadership principle. It's a becoming an attractive person principle. It's an influence principle. So that has nothing to do with insurance. It has nothing to do with sales. It has nothing to do with advising a client. Like it has everything to do with creating an example of becoming an attractive person. So something subtle as simple as that is like, I feel like it gets lost. And somebody says, well, I just can't get people to follow me. I can't get people to respond to me. And it's like, well, let's start back at the start. Like, what are they responding to? Just because you tell them to do something, just because you have a title, you're a manager, somebody promoted you, and now you're in charge of a result. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and that's a whole rabbit hole we could go down in the future too, of just becoming a good leader. And leadership is often viewed as just, oh, Brett's just a natural leader. He just is a good leader. Like, people follow him. It's great. And it is a contrasting to that. Leadership is actually a skill that you need to learn and work on. No different than physical fitness or shooting a basketball or whatever it is. And you have to take one thing, work on it, master it. You have to take the next thing, work on it, master it. And like you're saying, do that before you're in a leadership position, right? And then it'll come natural when you're in a leadership position.
So literally this morning, we have a text called core. So we have a group within inside the organization that we call core, meaning they live by the core philosophies and core principles of the business. It has nothing to do with their title, it has nothing to do with their position, it has nothing to do with their tenure, although those do have influence on where they sit in that cycle. But it has to do with people that are committed to the process of what we believe makes an extraordinary human being. And I sent a text out this morning, and it was it said pop quiz. What is the first step of finding or influencing someone to become core? And the answer is poured in. And of course, my two partners got it because we've been doing this for 15 years. But the answer is you become core. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It nothing to do with anybody else. But most people are thinking, well, how do I learn all these different things to help find the right piece or recruit talent or hire or train or just take all the problems that we have within the insurance industry when it comes to people. I can't find good people. All these self-limiting beliefs but you're trying to impose something on somebody that you're not even focused on yourself. Like the first step to finding people that are good people is you become good. The first step of becoming core and committed is you become core and committed. And I'm not talking 2 months before you decide to hire somebody. I'm talking years before,
Live it. Yeah.
live it. And so many of us, and I'll give you an example. We have a call that we run every 2 weeks or every week, depending. It's a personal development call. It's at 9 o'clock at night. It's not convenient. It is voluntary. And we read a chapter of a book until we're done with the book, right? And there's all these back and forth about what time's best and should we do every 2 weeks or is every week? And there was a lack of participation. And this was in a leadership text as far as like, all right, so how do we line up on this from a philosophy standpoint? And this is a business building principle, right? Everybody's like, well, trying to rearrange everything for the people that are not participating. Well, here's a core philosophy on leadership. You don't focus on the people that don't show up. You focus on the people that are in front of you. You focus on the people that are doing the thing. You focus on the people that show up. And so much of us, we want to rearrange everything so we can get everybody to be included. That's not leadership. Like, that's not how that works. Like, I'm going to be on the call. I'm going to be committed. And it doesn't matter what time, it doesn't matter what the structure is, it doesn't matter. If enough people are committed and enough people are there in a part of that core group, everyone else will fall in line. But yet we want to figure out, is it the duration of the call? Is it the time of the call? Is it the book that we're reading? Is it the chapter? And all that's noise. It's just a distraction, you know?
Totally. Couldn't agree more on that. I think that that's a big trap that business owners, agency owners get into with salespeople. You know, we want to, well, I have 5, 2 are just crushing it. They're A players. I have 2 that are, you know, B's, they're close. And then I have a C, you know, well, what do I need to do for the C player to get them? And you spend all your time getting the C player to get an incremental better step versus spending that same amount of time on, you know, if you increase your A player by 10%, that's probably 50% more than your C player is going to be able to do. Same with your B's, you know, we just don't, we don't focus on where that focus needs to be. Now, you need to have this is assuming you have the appropriate processes, you have the appropriate performance management review process, whatever you want to call it, with that C performer. So they know where they're at. They know what their expectations are. They know how they can get help. But some of this, we deal with this all the time internally too, is how much do you rely on driving a culture of self-accountability versus a culture of micromanagement, right? And those are the two extremes, right? So it's somewhere in the middle, but we battle it all the time of, you know, especially on sales, but really anywhere in the organization, you want people to be self-accountable to the values and to their team and everything that you want to drive. But it's a tough balance and you got to find where that works for you. But it is something that is teachable, is learnable. And it all comes down to, I think you use the word intentionality in there, and that's just so key.
Yeah. That's such a great point, because you're right. We're all guilty of it, whether it's a call, whether it's a meeting, whether it's an event, whether it's performance. You know, we want to cater towards the individuals and the people and get them and pull them to where we're trying to go. Right. It's like, why can't they respond? Like, I'm trying to herd everybody. Like, that's not leadership though. Like, you're trying to manage people, right? And so here's another philosophy that I didn't learn this from somebody else. This one's kind of been developed along the way, but I'm adamant about it because I believe this, and it depends on your culture, but I think this is the way that I want to lead is I want inspiration instead of accountability. Like, if I can inspire somebody, if we run an organization that inspires people to want to do it for themselves, we win. If we're working on from an accountability perspective, inherently accountability means I'm holding you to something that you said you're going to do. But in essence, the reason you're doing it is because I'm putting pressure on you. And now you said self-accountability, which I 100% agree with, right? Like, have a high standard. But in my opinion, I think self-accountability comes from inspiration. That is
spot on.
You know, so it's like this fundamental positive power that is driving you towards something, where accountability is, you know, me holding you to something that you said you're going to do. Now, both are necessary in situations. I have a coach and I pay a coach, and he's in my face every single week, and I do it on purpose because I want the accountability, right? But in essence, I'm voluntarily signing up for that. You know, I'm doing that because I'm inspired to be more. And so I want, from a leadership perspective, I want my example to inspire others to be self-accountable. I want to inspire them to move towards the light instead of trying to hold their feet to the fire. It's not easy, and like we go through waves, but when the team and when the organization is inspired, it's just a different vibe, man. It flows, it's easy. Like you can work on your stuff and the business is running itself. If you're trying to have your hand in everything and you can't understand why, like you just putting fires out all the time, and when you put one out, then there's this issue and this issue. It's like maybe you're too involved. Maybe it's so reliant upon you because you're having to hold people accountable instead of just running in the direction that you should go and being on fire and people are coming from everywhere to watch you burn. Like, you know what I mean? Like that to me, the leaders that inspire me are the people that they're not slowing down to, you know, make sure I'm doing the thing. Like they're going so fast and so hard in a direction that like the people that want to keep up, those are the people that they're going to run with. And I want to be one of those people that, that keeps up with them. So that I think that's another core leadership lesson that I've learned is like accountability only works in the short term, inspiration works in the long term.
I think, yeah, you're spot on. With that and creating something that is inspiring for people to get behind. Um, I think that's hard sometimes, especially if you're building your book right now, you're building your agency. You're just trying to make ends meet, you're just, I need to get the next deal in the door, and that's fine. You
Yeah.
are inspired by something, right? But then as you go to start to bring on team members and to, bring on additional people into your organization, I think, you can inspire them with a paycheck, or you can inspire them with something bigger than a paycheck, right? And
Yeah.
something different or bigger than a paycheck is all it's going to make your life 10 times easier. You're going to achieve things 10
Yeah.
times bigger than what you ever could by people that are just showing up to get a paycheck. And that's another thing we talk about internally all the time. You're probably always going to have, certainly as you grow the organization, you're going to have those folks that
Absolutely.
come to just do their work and go home, right? And we always talk like, what's the balance, to achieve what we want to achieve and to get people rallying around the same message? Do we need to inspire 80% of our team, 60%, 90%? Like, what's that balance, right? And you're always striving for 100%, but you're never going to get there. And so,
Right.
something that we think about a lot is just how do we do that? What can we do? And I
Yeah,
think a lot.
I was
Good.
gonna ask you, Elliot, if you don't mind, I'll ask you some questions because I have to think about it. What are some of those things, so if you say, okay, I'm getting beyond past the premium, let's get past the paycheck, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are some ways that you guys, are looking to create that pull outside of just, the money? What would be some of those things? And maybe it's just singular, I don't know.
No, for sure. We've done a few things. It's been an evolution for us. So we were, different than how you guys started from scratch. When I joined the firm, it was an existing agency, I would say, right? We had a few different producers building books of business, and we
Yep.
really had to make the shift to building a business, right? So we were kind of building the plane while it was in the air. But so we kind of had to stair step it. The first thing we did, or very early on, was twofold, and they kind of go together. But we created and branded just our philosophy, right? Here's how we're going to operate. Here's the process we're going to go through with our clients. Here's the goal of that process. But it's all around our philosophy of being a risk advisor to those businesses. So we started there. Then we created what we call our brand compass, and our brand compass is mission, vision, values on steroids, right? It's a big 11 by 17 poster that gets posted in everybody's office. And it just says the same thing, but in 18 different ways, right? Of who are we serving? Why are we serving them? What are we doing? We have our stakeholders of the company, which are
Yep.
not just shareholders. It's everybody that rely on us, right? Um, and then we refer to that in a lot of different ways. We do a weekly video where we just talk about the things going on in the firm. We have superheroes in there, people that are living out that brand compass.
That's cool.
Um, but then, the rallying message that we've now kind of gotten to is our role as a risk advisor is to serve those small businesses and people in our community that are ultimately driving all of our communities, right? They're the ones that are, driving our economy, are keeping people employed, are really pushing, for that in our communities. And we're there to help make sure that those businesses achieve their goals, go on to the next generation, whatever they want to do. And so that's kind of been how we've summarized this down into a hopefully inspiring message, but
Awesome.
it is, right? And it's way more fun for our team to be like, that's what we're doing. We're here to protect these communities, not just make a buck off the local business, you know?
That's cool. That's a mission worth getting up in the morning for, right? Like that's a noble cause. That in essence, that's in a mission, in my opinion, is something that's never attainable, right? Like
Yep.
that it's an idea. You're never going to physically be able to grasp that. But like you said, it's that compass, it's that North Star. And that's super inspiring, man. I mean, what a gift to be able to be part of a group of people that are serving, the unsung heroes of America in essence, right? Like the people that it's the engine of America that probably is underserved in most
Yep.
markets, right? It's the entrepreneur that took their entire life savings to open up this business and stake their livelihood on, right?
Yeah.
One risk that's not, seen or mitigated against could derail that for a family. That's a great message for anybody that's listening to say, what is this noble cause that someone can rally around, that your team can rally around, that says if the money was not an issue and gone, would it be something that they would want to participate in because it made them feel a certain way? It made them
Yep.
feel a level of significance. Like that's I love Tony Robbins' 6 human needs. I probably won't get all of them, but there's love and connection, there's significance, there is uh, 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 certainty, there's uncertainty, contribution. And I'm missing one more, but so that has always been something I look at and go, okay, how do I hit as many of those human needs as possible? And if you can look at those 6 human needs and say that your mission hits those for somebody, you just get this jet fuel. Because
Mm-hmm.
candidly, that's what people like, that's what we're all looking for. Like we're all looking for a certain level of feeling, and we're all looking for a purpose. We're all looking for something, being part of something that's bigger than ourselves, feeling that we're important, spontaneity, you never know what's going to happen that day. So you mix it up, keeps you on your toes. But also you want some level of security, which is certainty, some foundation security. That tomorrow is going to be fine. There's just these things that instinctually, and when you're leading people, especially on a macro level, that we all function the same way. We may have a little different derivative on our personalities and what's more important to us, but we all, in essence, are built essentially the same way. And that's why the great leaders of that we have all looked to for speeches and different moments in time you look at, because you're just, I'm attracted to that. I'm just like pulled in because they strike these chords.
Yeah.
And so, when you're building this stuff for your agency and your business, I think it's really important. I think that's a cool tip that we've used that's helped us. It's like, how many of these spokes can we hit? Because in essence, then you're going to evoke and awake the human spirit within an organization. And that's where that inspiration comes from.
Oh, totally. And as you're doing that, I would always recommend like put it down in writing, put it on something. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but get it on something that then you can, number one, it requires you to organize your thoughts around it, right? But then number two, you always have something to reference. Like everybody knows when I say our brand compass, what I'm referring to, right? They may not know everything that's on it, but they know what I'm referencing and what we're talking about. And that just kind of gives you something concrete to go back to, right?
Yeah.
You want people
It's
to
not
have
enough to say it. It's not enough to just say it and think
yeah.
that the people know it. You want it everywhere. You need it branded. You need it. Yeah, exactly. I love that. It's a very good tip, because that seems to be elementary, and it seems to be, no. Well, we only have 4 people, or we only have 5 people. This has kind of come back to what we were saying, is like, you got to do it before it makes sense. It's like, well, what if it's 3 of us? It's like, well,
Yep.
we get it. We came up with it. We were all sitting in a room and we decided on, of course we don't. But it's like, yeah, but would you do that if you had 100 people? No,
Yeah.
you wouldn't do that if you had 100 people. So then if you're going to do it for 100 people, you should do it when it's 3 of you. And that subtlety is so powerful, because it's not a matter of the 100 people that are coming. It's a matter of the 3 people that you did it for, because now you're teaching yourself that you're going to have 100 people, you know?
And then you think about recruiting, like your best recruiting sources are your team telling people they know that they want to be on this mission with,
Yeah.
that, hey, you should look at, you should talk to Brett about coming on the team, or whatever, because But if you've trained them, you've trained your 3 people in that scenario as to what to be inspired about and what we're charging for and where we're going, and they know that, there's no ambiguity in it, right? They don't make their own version of it up because
Right.
you've said it 10 different ways. They're going to recruit high level people to join that mission, right? And it's going to start to spread because it naturally does. It's amazing, like you said, when you almost like you put this stuff out in the universe and the universe brings it back to you. But it does. You're constantly talking about it, putting it in front of more people, and people do get inspired about it.
Yeah, I'll share with you a mistake that we made with that may help some people that are listening. So we did our mission statement when we started, and it was like, now this is an opinion, and I got this from people that are very smart, and so I borrow from it. But we made this because we lived it, but we made this mission statement. And it was beautiful, right? But it was like 4 sentences, 5 sentences. It was like a short paragraph. Nobody could recite it, but if you looked at it and read it, it'd be like, oh wow, that's beautiful, right? And so we decided like this isn't genuine to us. Like we just wrote this because we started it and we thought it was important, so we just wrote it down. So number one, if you just wrote it down when you started, good, you wrote something down, like good for you. That's not bad. But it's also okay to change your mind. It's also okay to go, you know what, this isn't really where we are now. And so we changed that. We got back together and said, hey man, this isn't genuine to us. And to your point, Elliot, it's too complicated. There's too much here. Like it needs to be distilled down to where everybody can just give it to you. It's because it's so simple. Because then you're not getting the power of it, like you said. You're not getting the word of mouth. You're not getting it. It's not duplicating. It's not resonating away from you. It's really just held to when you can read it on a board, right? And in reality, you want it to carry with people when they leave the office. So we distilled ours down, and it's create extraordinary lives. That's it. It's the American dream, in essence.
Yep.
That's what we stand for. That's our mission, right? Like we want to create unstoppable, empowered human beings, and that's everything that we do here. But it didn't always start that way. It started with this very long, fluffy mission statement, and was like, no. How do we do this in like 3 or 4 different, three, 4 different works? Like, how do we make this as simple as possible? And it took a while. And I'll even share with you this: when we rebranded, the marketing company that we did the rebrand, which is incredibly great, they did a really good job with the rebrand. But they told us that basically they were disempowering us with the mission statement that we had because it wasn't client facing, because they didn't know how to market it.
Yeah.
So as the marketing company, they wanted to do this market. They didn't know how to market it, so they didn't understand it. And the bottom line is, we had to make a decision that said, no, this is genuine to us. We need to take the internal and make it external, because this is always something that we're doing. Like we're already doing this. We were living, breathing, sleeping this, eating this. Like this is what we did, but the world didn't know about it. And so taking what you do internally that you love and distilling it down to a message that is as simple as possible, so you can take the internal and make it external. And it doesn't have to start exactly where you start. Sometimes we just hang a sign out front and we start writing some insurance, right? It evolves. You don't have to have it all figured out when you start.
Yeah, I was gonna say that exactly as you hit there at the end. I don't think that's a mistake, as you referenced at the start. That's just your evolution, right? And that's one of the things I wrote down as we were
Yeah, that's a good
talking.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people put off doing this because it's like, oh, it's not perfect. I can't roll it out yet because
Right.
and you're always gonna have that. It's like anything we do in life, right? Like, well, I can't run that half marathon because I haven't done this and I haven't gotten to here. It's like you're probably ready. You just got to go do it. And that's what I encourage everybody is even with this stuff is if you know it, you may not be able to articulate it, but just get started with it, right? Start having conversations with your team. Start with a 4-paragraph long mission statement because you just want to get it all on paper, right? Just start somewhere and it will evolve. It will come with you. If it's something you're truly living and it's something you truly believe in, it will evolve and it will come along. And I can promise you, you'll all of a sudden the light bulb will come on and it'll realize like, how can I make this, or you will realize how you can make it more impactful for people, but don't overthink it. I was even going to go back to starting with the end in mind. I think that's a similar deal, where people want to design it out perfect. Like, here's where I want to be in 15 years. And it's like, BS. Just say, here's what I want to be, that's what I love about like a just cause you were referencing with Simon Sinek. We'll talk about what you want to accomplish is never fully achievable, right? And that's what a just cause should be. But it gives you a guiding star. It gives you something to make decisions on today so that you're closer in 5 years, in 15 years, in whatever. But you just got to
Yeah,
start down the path.
you got to start, right? The plan that you have isn't going to be the plan that gets you there, but you got to have a plan. But that you just hit something, Elliot, that is profound, is that a just cause or a noble cause is your North Star, but it's also what's going to allow you to do we just talked about that inspiration part of leading people. If you don't have that North Star, if you don't have that just cause, that noble cause, you can't do, in my opinion, what's the most important thing to do from a leadership perspective. You can't sell the dream because
Yeah.
you don't have a dream, right? Like somebody wants to know, what am I fighting for? Like what is this to look like? Why is this worth it? And when you step back and say, hey, that business owner out there that just risked everything to take the step, they're 3-4 years in, they're having success, and there is a massive Mac train coming their way, and they either going to have the right coverage or they don't, and that's going to have to do with the risk advisors that they have in front of them. And we are those people that protect those entrepreneurs and the lifeblood of this country. So every person that you talk to that tells you no is just somebody that's a maybe to get to the person that's a yes, right? Like, because what you do matters, right? You are part of an infantry of insurance assassins that are protecting the lifeblood of this country, right? Like that is a dream, like that is a selling of a dream. And good leaders and inspirational leaders, they know how to sell the dream. And they sell it over and over and over and over and over to the point where your team may roll their eyes at you, right? Like that's normal. Like, and if you don't have that just cause, you don't have that noble cause, in essence, you're recruiting and attracting people to come work for you for the money, for the paycheck. And the challenge with that is there's no amount of money that someone will ever be satisfied if they're a high achiever, because we're progressive in nature, number one. And then number two, it's like, what happens if for some reason the money gets hit? Are they going to leave you? What happens if you fall in tough times? Are they going to leave you? Like easy come, easy go. Like if you have something rooted to where there's a dream and you're fighting for something that matters, of course the money matters. Of course the money's important. No one's trying to pay for your friendship, but at the same time, it's like, that can't be the only, that tree has to have more roots to that. And so
Yeah.
if you get clear on that, in essence, your recruiting gets better, your sales get better, your culture gets better, because you're rallying around this one thing. This messaging now has, it's symbiotic in nature with all the different portions of the business because they're all rallying around that one message. So it's such a good point, man. Simplistic, knowing what it is and at least starting, because if you don't, you just really have no competitive, edge. You're no different than anybody that's right across the street, right? I mean,
Totally. And hitting on something you said there, it impacts recruiting, it impacts sales, all of those, and they all work together when you have defined this. It's something that we've kind of actually stumbled into that we didn't realize is, we just started to talk to clients and prospects much more about our vision, where we're going. One of our key tenets is to remain independent, right? We see all the M&A in our industry, and we want to be clear, like we want nothing to do with that. We are remaining who we are, independent, because that's the best thing for our communities, for our employees, all the stuff, right? We started to communicate that to prospects, to clients, just so that we're telling the message, right? And around here, I mean, it's all of the decent sized, mid-sized firms have been bought up by the nationals or whatever. And we've had business owners that look at us and go, that is a refreshing, I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm a
yes,
plumbing contractor and all my
yes,
competitions are getting bought up. I get these calls all the time, but man, I want to transition this thing to my son. It's just getting hard. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. And it's resonating just because we're being honest with our values to our
yeah.
clients. Right. And man, I can't tell you how much we need to lean into this more, because
That's a clinic. It's like,
yeah,
why does that have to do with insurance? Why does that have to do with why I'm going to choose you? Like, why is that a coverage enhancement for my current policy? Like, what other service are you providing? It's like, no. This is such a clinic. Like, your story now matches up with the prospect story. Like if
yes,
I were to show you this manual right here, part of the discovery process that we have, we've talked about this online with the discovery process. Our discovery process starts with your story and their story and trying to find a match. because those are the people that are going to stay with you for a long time.
Yep.
Those are the people that you're going to serve at a high level. Those are the people that are going to get value from what you do, because like attracts like. So before we get into all the weeds on all this BS, this insurance stuff, this agency stuff, let's talk about a business building principle. Your story matching the client story, your story matching the prospective recruit's story, your story matching an association. I mean, whatever it is, all of a sudden, if you start there, now we have roots that are planted, and it doesn't, we can figure out all the other stuff. It's just what you said, right? It's like that resonates, and because you're genuine, right? And they're like, man, I see that in you, I respect that in you, and I want to do business with somebody like that, because that's they understand me, right? Like, that's so valuable, dude. That's like, to me, that's probably the best thing that's been talked about the last 30 minutes. Like, that is a clinic. If you just cut out the feature and benefits, and you figure out what is your mission, what is your story, what is the essence of who you are as an organization, but also as you as a person. And if you look for people that will connect with that, it just becomes so much less, it's less friction, right?
Yeah.
It's less friction. It says I gotta follow up, I gotta close, I gotta push. It's like, it becomes, no, I just have to find more people that resonate with this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And you're going to build better relationships with them. You know, like you said, they're going to be with you for the long term. And that's where I don't even like in our industry the term sales, right? Because it shouldn't, I mean, yes, we are obviously selling, but we can all point to that client or multiple clients or whatever that you went through your entire sales process and it never felt like a sale, right? You didn't have to get over objections. You didn't have to tell your script perfectly, you know. They got like referred in because one of your other clients was like, "Hey, these are the guys you need to do business with." And you meet and story matches story, like you were saying, and like tracks. And so it becomes super easy. You never feel like you're using any tactics, right? It's natural. And the more that you're telling this story, the more that is going to resonate, because you have something that somebody is going to be attracted to. We say all the time internally, like, if we don't go through our process on the front end, and we call it our sales process, but if we don't go through that process, if we just go and we quote insurance or something, and we say we write the business, you know, we found a cheaper option or whatever. Well, now we're the insurance agent for that client. We're not a risk advisor. They don't know anything about us. They don't, you know, they can't resonate with what we're trying to do. We are their insurance agent. And we've learned that when we do that and we shortcut that process, sure, we win the deal, but we're always now battling. You use the term friction. We always have a friction. Now the client may not think, because they just are like, you're just an insurance agent like everybody else, you know?
Right.
But guess what? When the next person comes by and says, I can save you 20%, they're going to take that call, because we're an insurance agent, just like that person. Right.
Yep.
And so that's where this can resonate even more, to where that client, if they match with what your values are, what you're trying to achieve, just as we've been talking, they're not going to take that call. They're naturally going to say, well, what is that? You know, does that person want to remain independent? Do they understand what I'm battling with? You know, my current partner's helping me in all these different ways. And maybe one of those is insurance. The rest may just be helping them talk through you know, how are you going to get this thing to the next generation or whatever? I don't know. But it's going to be way harder for them to take that phone call. You're going to maintain that.
Like, what is your ideal? We've all heard it in the insurance business. The insurance thing is, what's your ideal client, right? And, you know, it's this many trucks, it's this industry, it's this type of business, it's this revenue size, it's right. That's your ideal client. But what about identifying what your value prop is in regards to your mission and your just cause and your noble cause and what you want to rally around, and then being able to match that with that other client story, right?
The
Like,
psychographics.
is that part of it? Like, you know, so you know,
It should be.
it should be. And
It's the
if
most
it's at
important part.
least, and
Sorry.
if it's at least not defined in regards to, you know, you're looking up list building in regard, maybe it's intangible to the fact where you aren't able to get a demographic based around that. But wouldn't you want to lead with some of those questions? Wouldn't you want to find probing questions that lead you to understand kind of if that person is going to be one of those people? And I think later on in a career, these become more important. And I think more mature producers start asking these questions, because they've written the insurance. Sometimes you got to just do what you got to do. Like, I'm new in the business. I got to write what I got to write. You know, I'm having this conversation with a new producer in our office. It's like, we're not writing specific business. And he's asking, I'm like, look, man, take the sale. Like sometimes you got to get to level 2 by going through level 1. Like you don't get to skip levels, but just understand that that's not necessarily going to get you all that you want. Beginning with the end in mind of where you want to be, that's not what's going to get you there. Unless you use this as a stepping stool to get to maybe your more ideal client. Because he's working with some clients that they're just not ideal, right? They take up a lot of time. They're never going to be pleased. They don't appreciate him for what he's doing. It's very transactional. There's no allegiance, but there's some nice meat on them. Like they're good. They're good from a premium perspective, but understanding that's not going to get you where you're going to get to. But knowing what level you're in, I think the longer you're in this business, you realize that I agree with you. That is the most important, because that's going to give you a healthy lifestyle. That's going to give you an ability to scale in regards to your capacity. It's also going to give you more confidence in regards to building relationships. There's just a lot of things that come with that. But if you don't know what those are, in essence, you're not going to find those people that resonate with them because you don't even know what it is. You don't know what you're looking for.
Totally. Yeah, I kept interrupting you there because it's so spot on in I believe the psychographics, meaning how does the client think, what do they want, what are their goals, where are they going? I think those matching or identifying those as your ideal client and finding people that match that is more important than the industry, the size, the whatever it is. Now, yes, that stuff's all got to come and support what you can do and blah blah blah, but if you're going to go out and build a business, you want those people that align with how you're building it and with what you're trying to achieve far more than you do a contractor versus a trucker or whatever.
Yep. And for my personal lines people out there, like I'll give you a tactical example of another mistake. And again, maybe it's not a mistake, Elliot. It's just an evolution, right? But so we wrote a ton of property without any auto insurance in the beginning, right? Like, so it was just, we marketed and we built referral partners and we built a ton of homeowners business, but we didn't have the confidence to ask for the auto yet because, we were trying to satisfy referral sources. We thought, well, if we push the auto too much, they're going to stop using us for homeowners insurance. There's all these limiting beliefs that go on in your head when you're a newer agent and a newer agency at this point. We had 4 or 5 people. And all of a sudden you look at your book of business when you got 10, 12, 13, 14, 20 people, you're like, wow, like this is way out of whack. Like this is not our ideal client. But if you look at our book, 60%, 70% of the book is your not ideal client. So now the market has shifted down here in Florida and the service intensity just went through the roof, man. Yeah. It just went like from 0 to 100. And anybody who's on here, they're probably nodding and going, oh yeah, I get it. I totally understand that. And what ended up happening is it wasn't a problem until it was a problem.
Yeah.
And because we didn't begin with the end in mind, and because we didn't say, no, we got to do this now. So later on, when we didn't see that coming, right? We knew it, somebody tells you about it. But from a practical standpoint, hey man, we're going to write as much as we possibly can because, we're moving right now. And it caught up to us in a very, very heavy way. And we've had to shift a lot to be able to get back to what equilibrium is. And the first start of that was identifying who you're serving. Why are we serving them? We want people with all their stuff with us, period. End of story. Not, oh yeah, I've been with State Farm with my auto, so I'll get you to everything else, but I've been with them for 20 years and I love them, so I'm not going to do it. Most agents say, oh, well, I get that. That makes sense. Well, let me just quote it every 6 months when it comes up for renewal. No, we're telling people absolutely not. Then go have State Farm write your homeowners insurance. Oh, wait, they can't. Okay, great. Well, then make a decision because these are the people that we're serving. We're going to do it at a high level. This is our noble cause. This is why we believe that's in your best interest. But we're looking for the people that believe that too.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe it. The first 3-4 months, staff had such a hard time converting. They had a really hard time because they're having difficult conversations. It created friction. But after they got good at communicating that message, that just cause, that conversation, dude, our numbers skyrocketed off the charts. Like our policy count per client has gone up like 70%.
Yeah.
And the level of proficiency in our process now is so much better. Not because I think that we got better sales professionals or service professionals or got better with messaging is part of it, but I believe it's because we identify from a leadership perspective. It wasn't the staff's problem. It was leadership's fault. It was leadership's fault. We had to decide who we're serving, what the ideal client is, what they believe, And if they see value in that, and then we're not going to convince people, we're just going to sort through everyone. And
Yep.
we're going to find the people that get it, like professionals sort, amateurs convince, right? Like we're not convincing here. We're going to sort through it. And man, we get huge results because of it. But that wasn't a training issue. That wasn't a staffing issue. That wasn't a personnel issue. That was a leadership issue because we didn't make it clear enough and we didn't draw a line in the sand. So
Yeah.
resonate with that, man.
Well, totally. And I think, as you're building your business, I think that's the hardest thing for leaders to do because, or anybody in sales really is, you're afraid of missing out on the sale or afraid of missing out on the revenue. You've got an opportunity sitting in front of you, bird in the hand, that whole thing. Right. And I'm glad you said it because I think you're spot on. Like there are different evolutions of this, right? Where there's a period where you may need to write business to keep things going, right? And you have to understand that and you just got to recognize it. It's just good to be thoughtful with it, but always knowing where you're going so that you can as quickly as possible get to this point that you're referencing where you are sorting rather than convincing. um, but it's so spot on and it's refreshing when you actually get to the point where you have that well identified and you start to have more conversations with those people that resonate with what you're doing. It's way more enjoyable. It's less stressful, because you're not trying to convince all the time.
Yep.
But I would tell anybody out there, and I'm glad you said that too, is it seems like, because we've seen the same thing where you have this limiting belief where, well, if I start to do these things differently, I'm not going to write as much business, or people are going to, start to say no or walk away. My current clients aren't going to like it, all of this noise that comes in. And I think it goes back to number one, decide what's important to you with where you're going. And then, yes, you're going to have people that don't agree with that. You're probably going to have some clients that maybe go somewhere else because they don't like this new you or whatever that they're seeing. That's okay though. As long as you're getting aligned with the people that see your vision and want to see it through with you, you're going to be in a much better spot, not only personally, not only, as a firm, but also revenue. It follows doing the right activity. Right. So I'm glad that, you kind of hit on a few of those things. And I love the honesty and here's some things that we did wrong. Cause that's the other thing I think is we live in the Instagram world, right? Where we see everybody's rose covered pictures and that's not it, right? Most everybody is in the trenches grinding too and trying to figure it out as you go. And you try something, you screw up, you learn and you move on. But as long as you're trying things that bring value to the people that you're trying to serve, everybody, 98% of people understand and are like, yeah, hey, no worries. Thanks for being honest. And you move on. So,
Yeah, no doubt.
well, man, that was awesome. We could probably keep going. I've got a list of other things that I wrote down for future conversations. So yeah, we'll get another one on for everybody. This was fun though. I love this conversation just because I think it's what a lot of people I feel like are in the trenches grinding every day and maybe don't have a thought partner, don't have somebody to have these conversations with. And hopefully just you and I bantering back and forth for a while maybe helps one or two people and helps you get to the next stage and learn from our mistakes and what we're doing and what we're trying. And, it'll all work out. So appreciate the time, man. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks for setting this up. This is, I agree with all that sentiment. This is a fun conversation. It's one that's evolving. It's never static. And anybody that's listening, just know the higher the level, the bigger the devil, man. It doesn't get easier.
Yeah.
You just got to evolve and get better. So I appreciate you allowing me to share and setting it up, man. I enjoy it.
Sounds good, dude. Catch you next time.
Man. All right, brother. See you.